Hello, Dr. Tang. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Patel. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's so glad to have you here today. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about bloating because that is something that I feel like so many people deal with, and really a lot of people just don't even know what to do or how to start. And so I'm really excited to talk about this. Um, but before we get into that, like the main topic, tell us a little bit about your journey. Tell us, how did you get involved in natural medicine?
Yes, for sure. So, yeah, a little bit of going down memory lane. So, I had always been curious in natural medicine, probably due to the influence from my family's upbringing, where
Mhm.
being interested in Chinese herbs and all those things and using those Chinese strong smelling oils for anything, flu, coughs, headaches, anything you name it, that's the remedy for it. And initially when I was going through my undergrad, I was initially interested in physical therapy. So I was going to apply to physical
Yeah.
therapy graduate school because I had always been athletic and very interested in being active and wanting to help other athletes stay well in their physical body. So I worked as a physical therapist aide for quite some time, for 4 years, and it was it was not as I had expected. I mean, physical therapy is so wonderful, such a great modality, and we often recommend it, for our patients for
Definitely.
mostly
Yeah, it's
health.
very
Yeah,
beneficial. Hmm.
yeah, pelvic floor dysfunction has been in the up and coming, and a lot of people have awareness of that, how it can be so helpful for so many things, right? But the clinic that I worked at, the outpatient clinic I worked, it was next to a hospital. So most of the patients we were seeing just had surgery and were not kind of, but were looking for rehab to get back to the daily life. And so
Hmm.
these surgeries were intensive, invasive.
Right,
There were
right.
back surgeries, neck surgeries, ACL surgeries, and oftentimes it was from chronic pain, chronic bad posture, chronic inflammation. And so having to face a lot of these challenges, it was hard to witness that because I wanted to be in the forefront of prevention.
Mm,
It was
yes.
there was so much more that people could do besides, the rehab is great, but it was difficult to see so many people be in pain and not knowing if they can be ever be pain free regardless of surgery or not, or like
Hmm.
like having hip replacement and then planning to have the other hip replaced.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was difficult. And so during that time too, I had a lot of backache. I had a lot of sciatica pain, probably mostly because I was a student and sitting. I
Hmm.
had a sedentary life, and
Hmm.
me, I love being, um, I loved engaging in movement, but none of it was working. But then I started yoga. I started juicing. I started experimenting with a lot of those
Hmm.
alternative. I wouldn't call them alternative. I don't like that word because
Yeah.
these are true solutions. They're not
Yeah.
alternatives.
Right. Yeah, I really don't like the term either, so I love that you said that.
Yes, alternatives doesn't mean that it may work. It's a true viable solution.
Yes,
And
for
so
sure.
the physical therapist that I had worked for at that time, she was telling me that, me, I know you're in the process of applying to grad school and all those things. I would
Hmm.
look into naturopathic medical school. I'm currently seeing a naturopathic medical doctor, and I wish that's the route I went in. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so me hearing that from, my mentor, someone that I looked up to, someone just giving me an idea of, like, like there's more than, there's more to explore.
Hmm.
So I was definitely curious, and uh, don't don't laugh, but I had been also listening to, we all start with books. Back then, there was not a lot of like Instagram or TikTok that you would absorb the
Right.
information from.
Uh-huh.
It was books, and one
Yes.
of the books that I enjoyed the most at that time was Dr. Oz. He
Okay.
talked a lot. He talked a lot about the connection between
Yeah.
foods and the body, and a lot of
Hmm.
medical doctors were not doing that at that time.
Hmm.
Now, I don't recommend that book now. It was, dated a little bit later. At that time, it was like so revelatory for
Yeah.
me because it was like, this is the anatomy of the body, and the foods that we're eating has a direct impact. with,
Mhm.
and at that time I was like focused on like performance, inflammation, and pain, and all those sort of things. And yeah, he really opened my eyes to it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so then I started to look into, and that's why I got into the rabbit hole of naturopathic medicine. And I started sending emails to a lot of naturopathic clinics in my area. I sent like 10 emails, and one person got back to me, and she said,
Uh,
yes, come in and shadow me. Like, I'll be happy to have you. And it's so crazy because I shadowed her, and just to wrap it up, it was wonderful. I learned so much during that period. Her name is also Dr. Tang. We're not related, but she was like,
it's a very
I
common
was,
last name.
yes, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And she actually focuses on women's health and pregnancy. And I remember walking into her clinic and having so many parents being so thankful to her. And she had this wall of pictures of babies of people that have sent her their pregnancies, yeah, their
Oh,
successful
that's
pregnancy.
cool.
And I was like, wow, this is what it means, this is what
Yeah.
wellness means. And it was so inspiring. And then so I haven't seen her in like 7 years, right? Because I went to ND school right after. And I ran into her like a couple months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I just think I was so excited to see her. I'm like, Dr. Tang, like I just wanted to let you know I'm a naturopathic doctor now, just like you. And she didn't remember me.
Oh no.
That's all good. She had probably a lot of, she was very busy.
Yeah. No,
And
for sure. And it's always so interesting now because I definitely get a lot of students asking to shadow me now. And I'm like, I remember being that student. So I always try to do my best to support them in whatever way I can. And but I'm always like, it really is just I actually just had a student text me today because I told her to text me months ago and she did and I forgot to respond. And she texted me again. She's like, "Hey, like are you still okay with it?" And it's so funny because it really is just that we just get so busy. And I'm like, I wasn't trying to intentionally ignore her or anything. And that is like, it
Mhm.
is so that, and I know how difficult it is being a student or being someone who's interested. But then now I feel like I understand the other side because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like, just like constantly. And even if it's like, cause I'm so like all about self-care and we'll talk about that stuff as well. But like, even though that's the case, I like then that's my self-care time, and then it's like it's a lot. So
Mhm.
so if any students listening, I'm definitely not ignoring you.
Yes. Yes. So she did remember me, most likely because she was doing a lot of preceptorship, because part of her curriculum is like shadowing
Right.
doctors and then yeah, accumulating those hours. And she's probably seeing a
Yeah,
handful of us, and there's only her. But I wanted
definitely.
to let her know how thankful I was and all these
Yeah,
great things
that's
that I'm
amazing.
up to. And
Yeah.
she was like, I think she was like kind of taken aback of like, oh yeah, but I'm sure she was excited to hear all of that.
Yeah, no,
And
for
so
sure. That's amazing.
yeah, if you listen to this, Dr. Tang, again, thank you so much for,
Yes.
being, yeah, being a, what is it? Someone
Inspiration.
who is, yeah, inspiration, a representative of a naturopathic doctor,
Yeah.
because she was, practicing according to those philosophies. So anyway,
Mhm.
so um
That's how you got
yeah,
here.
that's how I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, and now you practice for the wonderful practice of Mahan Health,
Yes.
which we are so excited to have you on our team. I know like even that interview process, I know that was not easy for you, and so we'll talk about more about Mahan Health at the end. So make sure you stay tuned for that and how that has been. But we are very grateful to have you, and we're grateful for the other Dr. Tang for bringing you to us eventually. Like that
Aw.
is, I mean, you've been such a like. I just feel like I don't know if you are watching this on on your YouTube or whatever right now, then you can like see how like wonderful her smile is. She's got like, great energy and she's so good with patients and she's so quick. Like so many things that like we talk about and learn like they're so it can get complicated and I feel like you're so quick like you're a quick learner, which is amazing and so helpful. And I feel like a lot of times I just kind of throw like from the beginning, I've just kind of thrown you into the fire and you handle it so well. So I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you, Dr. Patel. Like the honor is mine. I think that we have a great work relationship, and I think we just feed off each other's like energy and
Mhm.
inspiration. And I know you specifically focused on women's health, and then we have me on the other hand, and I think that's where we balance each other
Yeah,
out.
for sure. So let's talk about that a little because like you
Mhm.
definitely do a lot of gut health and a lot of you have a lot of patients with bloating. So let's get into the meat of the topic today. Let's talk about bloating, right?
Let's
So
talk about bloating.
so what does that actually mean? What does it mean to be bloated? Is that just like your abdomen? Like, because I think people don't fully understand what that actually means. And I've had some patients will tell me, and I'll let you answer this question, but I've had some patients tell me like, oh, I don't know if I'm bloated or if it's just extra fat, you know. And so, can you help us understand what exactly is it?
Yeah. So bloating can have several causes, different causes, but to really understand what's normal and what's not normal is that sensation of the slow digestion. So it could be the foods that you're not able to tolerate or having what we call indigestion or other symptoms that come with bloating, such as acid reflux,
Oh,
constipation,
mhm.
pain, discomfort, and then feeling like you're having a lot of food sensitivities, like you're not able to tolerate foods, and then a lot of discomfort. And
Yeah,
so
and it's
most people think it's normal. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say it's also like it can be the distension of the abdomen,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily have to be like a, you know, an exaggerated distension. Sometimes it could just be like uncomfortable, which
Hmm.
and that's to me often, yeah, like you said, a lot of people think it's normal, but usually bloating is pretty uncomfortable. And so if you're feeling uncomfortable, that's never normal. Like
Hmm.
it's never normal to be in pain. And so that's just a sign. Like, so if you have any level of pain anywhere, that's not normal. Okay.
Hmm.
We're not meant to be in pain all the time or just in general. And so if like, is it okay to like occasionally have some bloating? Like I know for myself personally, I definitely like I think we talked about this. Actually, also we'll talk about the membership too. But in our membership video, when we talk about bloating, we talk about this a little bit too, where I would get bloated with rice when I eat out.
Hmm.
And I think I realized it's more sticky rice actually, which is interesting, versus
Hmm.
like basmati rice. I think I feel fine with basmati rice. But
Interesting.
yeah, I think I realized because I usually get like poke bowls, and that's like always where I get. But when I
Mm.
make the poke bowl myself, I'm fine because I use basmati rice. But but anyway, so that might be it. But anyway, so if that occasionally happens, is that okay, or should I just be like avoiding rice when I eat out?
Yeah, definitely. Things happen, and it's just a matter of recognizing what is contributing to the bloating, like what happened, why am I bloating? And oftentimes it could be due to stress, eating on the go, eating fast, because having a, being in a fight or flight state does cause bloating. And
Mhm.
so most of us have, stress is good. The use stress is good, like to meet deadlines, to finish projects, like the membership, and occasional bullying is it comes with that sometimes because we cannot be always zen, but to have an understanding of like, okay, listening to our body, what caused the bloating and how can I kind of reset my nervous system back into balance, because chronic stress, chronic bloating then leads to an array of other chronic conditions such as nutrient malabsorption, fatigue, insomnia, hormonal imbalances, right?
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
consider that.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. So what are some potential causes of bloating?
Mhm.
So like in terms of disease, like what are some things that could be the underlying issue behind bloating?
Yeah. So again, we mentioned the nervous system
Yes. Mhm.
dysregulation. That's a big part. Other
Mhm.
condition could be SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Mhm.
There is acid reflux too. Could be due to not having enough stomach acid that you're producing because your digestive fire is not as robust. So think of it when we consume foods, everything has to be broken down. Your digestive
Mhm.
juices have to be released. You have to increase stomach acid to break down the proteins so that you can absorb the amino acids.
Yeah.
If for any reason you are lacking in those, and again, could be due to stress, could be the foods that we are not eating and avoiding to help with those
Mhm.
synthesis of those enzymes. And then also microbiome dysbiosis, which has been a huge topic in my life right now. With most of the time, the bacteria in our gut help break down those foods. So if we're
Mhm.
missing big food, um, big strains, big phylums of bacteria, our body um, starts to lose the ability to break down certain foods. And why
Mhm.
would we lose those ability? Think of antibiotics, think of stress, think of, I mean, I just saw a study yesterday um, on, you have heard grape, you guys have heard of grapefruit seed extract.
Mhm. Well, I definitely have, but
Yes, please do not please do not take grapefruit seed extract because it's not selective. It will,
Mhm.
no matter what
Yeah,
amount, it will kill the bad and the good guys, even if you
right.
take small amounts. And citrus seed extract don't have an innate ability of being antimicrobial. It's what they add to grapeseed fruit extract formulas that make it antimicrobial. Think
Mm.
of I don't know how to pronounce it, but the ingredients for preservatives and hand sanitizer is what they add into the product for it to be
Oh, interesting.
antimicrobial. Yes, it's not a natural
No,
product and
that
it doesn't have
yeah.
a history in its uses. So we often use herbs because they
Mhm.
date back in history and then we
Right.
research them and then we find out, oh, this is why people have used them for centuries. Well, people have not used grapefruit seed extract. I find this
Mhm.
word is so long, not to be confused with grape seed extract.
Right, that's what I
Grapes.
was gonna say. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a difference there. And yeah, that is really fascinating. Just and that's the frustrating thing about like the world that we live
Yes.
in, right? It's so hard to know what truly is natural and whatnot. And so it's really important to look at these ingredients, but also before you take some of these things, talk to a naturopathic doctor. Look,
Hmm.
I mean, and then if you're a part of the membership program or if you're wanting to join the membership program and see if any of the things on there are recommended first before trying something, right? Because
Yes.
we you want to make sure that you're getting support from a professional like Dr. Tang or myself to kind of help you there. And so
Mhm.
so yeah, that's going to be really important and I appreciate you bringing that up. And okay, so we talked about a lot of things. Oh, there are two things I want to go back to. Um,
Mhm.
the first, let's talk about the nervous system regulation a little bit more. I do want to kind of go back to that. What are some things that people can do to kind of support their nervous system, bring them into that kind of calm, rest and digest, parasympathetic state, so that they can ideally help support the prevention of bloating, prevention of like dysbiosis, and all the things that could go wrong with our gut?
Yeah, for sure. There is a misconception about nervous system regulation that in order to regulate the nervous system back into balance, that we have to practice being calm. And that's oftentimes not the case. There are several practices depending on the needs of your nervous system, because depending on the situation, if you've been cut off on the freeway, or if there's something that's happening or you feel rushed or you're angry at someone, there's anger trying to express itself. So it's important to have that excess energy express itself in a healthy way. So
Mhm.
nervous system regulation doesn't mean staying calm, because that could lead to repression and suppression of the emotion that
Yes.
wants to express itself.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it may mean screaming, it may shake, like doing the shakes, and
Yeah.
may mean doing
Shake
the
it off.
tarzan. The
Yeah.
tarzan, I know you talked about, exercise, a big component of
Mhm.
your, for you to find focus and feeling grounded, and oftentimes
Mhm.
it may mean a short intensity activity. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but 10 minutes to really
Yeah.
um, let go of the excess energy that wants to express itself. Oftentimes with anxiety, that is the restlessness, the fidgetiness, the
Mhm.
racing thoughts, and then trying to use our thoughts to calm it down, maybe oftentimes counterintuitive. So
Mhm. Definitely,
exercise,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, and then that's the thing with exercise, it like so if you deal with things like anxiety, it helps release that. But then also if you deal with things like depression, then it actually can help stimulate those endorphins, which can
Mhm.
help support the depression too. And so exercise is like just essential. We need to do some sort of movement and like yeah, like you were saying this morning, like I not this morning, this afternoon, I was just feeling like started my period, feeling a little like tired and not ready to like do anything. I really just didn't want to do anything, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna just like do a 10-minute low impact Peloton ride. Nothing crazy. If it feels uncomfortable, if I don't feel good, I'll just get off. It felt amazing. I continued. I did the whole thing and I was like, all right, I feel so much better. And so so yeah, that sometimes releasing, the shaking it off, the punching pillows if you're angry, you know, the punching the
Mhm.
air, even doing like a kickboxing class, whatever it is, can be so helpful in actually supporting your nervous system. So I really appreciate you talking about how it's not always about like you know, meditating, which I think
Mhm.
some people will try to do. And I've definitely tried to do that in those times. And then I'm like, okay, I need to let it out. Like, I just
Mhm.
need to go, you
Yeah.
know? And so yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, a big thing that I want to mention too, that because I listened to a TED talk on nervous system regulation as yesterday, and she was talking about incorporating play into our life, and I think that's like a big
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Luckily for you, Dr. Patel, you have your son, and so he's
Yes.
always reminding you constantly how to be
All the
playful.
time.
But oftentimes, people who may not have pets or small children, we just we we forget how to play, and that's a great
Yes.
way to just be present and play and not have any expectations of outcomes or activities or to-do list. Yeah.
100%. I think that can be really, really powerful. Like I'm
Mhm.
always talking about play. Like it is so important to play. Singing and dancing can help activate our vagus nerve,
Mhm.
which is a part of regulating our nervous system. So yeah, all of these things are amazing. I love that. All right. I want to kind of move on. So one of the other things you talked about was SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that a little bit. If y'all don't know, she's like my SIBO person now. So like I like anyone who has SIBO, I definitely just like send them over to Dr. Tang because I feel like she's got it.
Yes, so SIBO it can be complex and also
Hmm.
misunderstood most of the time. So SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So there is bacteria in the small intestine. However, it becomes troublesome when there's a buildup of it because what these specific bacteria do is they produce a certain gas, which tend to make us have that sensation of distension and bloatedness.
Hmm.
And in a healthy individual, there is no overgrowth in the small intestine because most of the bacteria that we have resides in the colon. And so we want to look at all the things. Why is an overgrowth in the small intestine, right? and
Hmm.
and so that's where it can be, sometimes it can be tricky. But
Hmm.
if we look at, I have like this algorithm or this flow chart that I go through, and we want to look at all these things, such as um digestive juices, microbiome dysbiosis, the nervous system regulation, and the bowel movements, to see, because those can be, if you have slow
Hmm.
motility, like if your peristalsis is not working as it should for whatever reason, lack of fiber, nervous system, again, all those things again,
Yeah.
right? It will always come down to the same things over and over again. This is oftentimes how SIBO happens in the first place, right?
Wait,
And so,
real quick, can
yes.
you just tell everyone what peristalsis is, just in case
Yes.
there are people who don't know?
Yeah, so peristalsis is basically the movement of food through your intestine. And sometimes it could be sluggish. So think of, again, your vagus nerve. It's this large nerve that, is attached from the brainstem and is mostly innervates most of the digestive tract and a lot of
Mhm.
organs as well.
Yeah.
And if that's dysregulated, peristalsis may not be as functioning as properly. So the propulsion of food through the digestive tract, think of sluggishness, could
Yeah.
be also in hypothyroidism. So also always look at your thyroid, gland, the master gland of the body, in
Yeah.
its correlation to SIBO, because yeah, most people may not test everything. So
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, when
yeah.
I think of peristalsis, like I think of like, like if anyone's seen that video of like food going down your like from your mouth all the way down to like passing through your stool, like that's kind of very similar to it. It's just that the movement of the food in what we call a bolus,
Yes.
technically through
Yeah.
into your bowels. And so that's what that is. Okay, sorry. And then you were talking about where were we
So
outside?
yeah, the peristalsis
Yes.
movement is important to prevent SIBO, right?
Okay, yes.
We want
Yes.
to have that type of movement, and then a lot of things can support that, but we want to have that um during the times when you're not eating, when you're feeling relaxed, when you are in your rest and digest state, so that your food is just not fermenting in the tract, and so which
Mhm.
could lead to that overgrowth
Yeah.
of opportunistic bacteria. I don't like pathogens. I like to say opportunistic because we have a lot of bacteria in our gut, and if they are in small levels, such as Candida, such as E. coli, and in small levels, they're harmless. They can
They're
be
okay.
beneficial to yeah,
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 definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and sometimes like the way that I think about SIBO a lot is like if we think of like stool being backed up, like
yes.
that is like your stool or your bowels are literally what your body is trying to get rid of because it's like all the toxins, all the things that you don't need. And so if that gets stuck in there and is not being excreted, like we're not getting it out of our body, now that's just in there. And now this bacteria goes back into our intestines. And like this
Mhm.
is where we get that overgrowth. And it's just like when we think about it like that, it's honestly kind of really gross. But it's like,
But that's what we
but
talk about here.
yeah, exactly. We definitely, I mean, like naturopathic doctors, we love talking about poop and we could do it all day.
Yeah.
And so so it is and that's really what's going on with SIBO. And so we really want to like this is why like getting your bowels moving is essential for literally everything.
Mhm.
But what are okay, yeah. So I appreciate you kind of talking about SIBO. And SIBO is really complex to then treat too. And so we won't really get into all of that today. Um, but I do kind of want to talk about like, maybe like some what conventionally they would normally do versus what you would do in our naturopathic practice. Like, what would you do for someone who did have SIBO? And you don't have to go into like, the exact detail on dosing and all that stuff, but just like, what are some things that you would do? Like, how would that work?
Yeah, so first off, the conventional approach is to prescribe a antibiotic, the one that's well known as rifaximin, and oftentimes it's not very accessible. Like the prescription can be 500, seven hundred
Yeah,
and fifty
so
dollars
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at the studies, the success rate of that antibiotic is not very convincing because it's and don't quote me on this, but it's like 50% or so success rate. So you spend money on
And
this antibiotic and it
mhm,
may come back. You have a
that's what I was
50-50
gonna say.
chance.
Yeah.
You have a 50 chance of it coming back, and then you
Yeah.
are at square one. Still, and
Hmm.
then and then what do we do? They will continue to recommend low FODMAP, and then maybe we try a different antibiotic, and we know the effects that chronic antibiotic use
Right,
has,
and then
right?
just you're in this cycle of
Yeah.
antibiotics, and then
You're
and then eventually people come and see us usually.
yes, because yeah, you don't want to be in that cycle,
Yeah,
because
just
again,
tiring.
that microbiome is so valuable, and it becomes
Mhm,
more and more endangered, the
mhm.
communities. So when patients come to see us, there is definitely different approaches that we can start with. So there is the SIBO breath test that's also a little bit controversial, right? And then there is the antimicrobial route or just the probiotic route. And I have seen success with both, like with using both routes. Like if you want to use an antimicrobial herb to kind of reduce the pathogen load, that can be helpful. Or if you don't want to use an antimicrobial, you can outcrowd it with
Mm.
probiotics. So that's actually also a viable solution. It depends on,
But with
um,
probiotics, like I thought usually we don't want to do that with SIBO.
Yeah, you want to start slow and easy and perhaps only with one strain. And
Mm,
oftentimes, what can be really helpful is it's working on those underlying factors that may have caused SIBO in the first place. So, foundational pillars of gut health is the nervous system regulation, making sure that your digestive tract, your peristalsis is working, your digestive juices, which can be used. We can use
yeah, gotcha.
digestive enzymes, bitters, all those things can just help things moving.
Yeah,
And having that your body has can eliminate it on its own without antimicrobial. So there is studies out there. It's just most people are very uncomfortable and they want to, feel relief as soon as possible.
right.
So, and yeah, some people, like you said, don't tolerate the probiotics because if you have, a lot of microbes in the body and then introducing another strain that can, your body be like, oh my god, what's
Aggravate it.
happening? Yeah, and
Mm,
and this has happened with me before. I would take a new probiotic strain. I would feel nauseous. I would, not to be graphic, but this happens. Like you could throw up, you could be nauseous, you could have really severe digestive symptoms, diarrhea,
mhm,
all those things. And that doesn't mean that you're not able to tolerate the probiotic. That just means you don't have to go small and slow and preferably with one strain at a time. And
mhm.
if that's a beneficial strain, that just means that you probably don't have enough of it. And I know you and I do a lot of those gut microbiome stool tests, and we can see how many people lack
Mhm.
these beneficial strains that are
Right.
so helpful with digestion, hormone, neurotransmitter synthesis, your immune system, all those things. I mean, that's a rabbit hole, but yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, no, for sure. No, I appreciate you kind of like breaking that down too, because I think it's important to understand that probiotic piece too.
Mhm.
But okay, moving on kind of from SIBO. I mean, we're still talking about
Mhm.
bloating, but what are some simple things? So we obviously talked about like the nervous system a lot. What are some other things that maybe people can do if they experience bloating on occasion or in general tend to feel bloated? Like what are some things that they can start with at home today?
Yes, I love that question because these things are free. These things can be done at any time, and you have access to them without, yeah, having to pay or ask for support.
Mhm.
So chewing your food, mindful eating is helping diaphragmatic breathing because it switches us from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. So it's oxygenating
Mhm.
the whole digestive tract, not just our chest, so that we can absorb, digest, and stimulate the peristalsis movement. And
Yes.
then being also mindful of the foods that we're eating, highly processed foods are just given their nature harder for us to digest. So
Mhm.
cooking your vegetables, making smoothies at the beginning,
Mhm.
those can be so helpful and kind of support your digestion before you even eat the food because it's breaking
Yeah.
down it before. And then there's some herbal teas do. I know we talked about that in our membership, the CCF tea, the coriander, fennel,
Yes.
and the cumin. Those are what considered like anti-bloating. I don't want to say anti-bloating, but they
Yeah.
help relieve gas. And
Yes,
so
definitely.
yeah, not chugging water with your meal, drinking it 15 minutes prior to me, and then drinking that tea after you have your meal. And yeah, chewing. Those are all the things that kind of just signaling and working with your body and letting it know that, just take your time and
Yeah, like it's
yeah,
okay. It's
it's
okay.
okay.
We're in a safe space. We can enjoy our food. It's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
all that's really, really important. And yeah, those we talk about some more specifics in the membership. So I mean, like I feel like we already talked about a decent amount already, but
Mhm.
pretty much everything we talked about in the membership. But you would get a lot more in terms of like the actual protocol, like full breakdown and all that. So if you are interested or if you are dealing with it, I would definitely recommend uh, signing up for the membership because that is going to be kind of a gold mine for you. And then Dr. Tang and myself are both are also in there answering your questions. So if you have questions, we're also going to be there to support you. So it's going to
Mhm.
be really like I'm really excited about this membership. So make sure that like you check it out, see if it's something that you are interested in. I think that would be um, hopefully it has a positive impact for you. So All right. I
Sure,
think those
sure.
are all of the questions that I wanted, like, that I had about bloating. Um, Before we conclude this episode, I do want to ask you a few rapid fire questions. So you
Sounds
don't
good.
have to answer them rapidly. It's just kind of like a quicker round of questions. But these are questions I ask every single one of my guests. And so I'm excited to have you on here, like my other Mahan doctor, have you on here to answer these questions now too. So this one is like really, really important to me and something I'm very passionate about. What does Mahan Health mean to you?
Mahan Health means to me that what health means to the individual person, because a lot of people feel overwhelmed with doing all of these things to be healthy, like cold plunges, meditation, like having a to-do list of all of these health habits, and that can be really overwhelming. But Mahan Health means great health that is individualistic to you. Like, what do you stand for, and how do you want to what do you want to embody and show up as in the world, and what are the habits that are going to help you accomplish that? And yeah, being what does and embodying that. So it could mean a lot of
Yes.
things. It could be the Peloton bicycle, it could be the yoga, it could be Pilates, and it could be also transitional, right? Like we may have, a lot of us may have like that hit face,
Yeah,
high
we've all been
intensity hit
there.
first. Yes. And now we kind of crave the slower movement, like the
Mhm.
reformer Pilates or the weightlifting. And so Mahan Health means really going in, reflecting what what we want to embody, what are our values, and how can we connect those two with our higher self.
Yeah, definitely. I
Mhm.
love that. Um, all right, next question. What was the most difficult health change for you to make, and what are you still working on?
I think it's
And
it's
is
the
it
same.
if it's the
Yeah.
same? Yeah, that's okay.
The same questions. It's because, yeah, it's still with my digestion too, because the reason why I am wanting to help a lot of women with connecting with their digestive wellness is because of my experience with my own digestion journey. And I know this is very vague, but also working on my own nervous system regulation. And to be a little bit philosophical and spiritual if you are into this kind of stuff, but the stomach, our digestion, this is where the solar plexus is, and the solar plexus is a representation of confidence, self-worth, also safety and our own expression. And so really connecting with that is it's already a life mission of maybe 2 lifetimes. Or yes. So yeah, just connecting all those parts in the physical realm, spiritual realm, and then using all the tools that are available. And yeah, those are the things that I've definitely made great strides since I started, from being vegan to now, to supporting other women and learning so much on the way. And yeah, I'm really
Mhm.
grateful um because working with the patients, I'm learning so much about myself. And my inspiration comes also working with these patients who are,
Mhm.
also doing the work, committing and prioritizing their self-care, prioritizing their protein and vegetable intake, and
Mhm.
being in this field of like prioritizing your health, because it is important, kind of re-inspires you of why you
All
started
the
this in
time.
the first place, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, my patients are one of my biggest inspiration, because we talk about all these things, and it reminds me of all the things. Even though you have all these knowledge, like, you don't stop applying it. It is a journey.
definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
And I love that too because I think that is the beauty of working with patients and doing what we do is like we
Hmm.
get to constantly check in and support ourselves in that way. Like there are so many times where I'm working with a patient and I'm like, "Oh yeah, like this will be supportive for you." And I'm like, "Actually, that would be supportive for me too," you know?
Yes.
And then like oh, like later that day I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I need to do that too," whatever it is. Like
Hmm.
I remember just recently I was telling a patient about golden milk and I was like, "Oh, I haven't done that in a while. That would actually be really great for me right now."
That
And
does sound
and
great.
yeah, and honestly might be great today being on my period. So like I
Hmm.
feel like it is one of those just like very warming, nourishing drinks. So
Hmm.
it's amazing what we do. I love it. So all right, last question. If you could have a commercial, what would it be about and why?
It would be about the power of our microbiome health that most people are not aware of the connection of the microbes and our relationship to it. It often feels maybe even I think the misconception that most people have is that there's microbes in my stool. I have to kill them so that I don't have to feel so ill. But for me, what I want to promote is that understanding that relationship because it's a symbiosis, right? It's a
Mhm.
symbiotic relationship. Without the bacteria, the fungi, the yeast, the viruses, we wouldn't be here where we are right now. I know this is very philosophical because it
Mhm.
is when we started this symbiotic relationship that we were able to evolve together. There were these
Yeah.
microbes are very beneficial in our health, and they will continue to be here for us as we
Yeah.
continue to nurture them because they produce these metabolites that have I mean, there's so much to learn still.
Yeah.
It's like a big vast ocean or galaxy,
It's
the
amazing.
microbial yes. And
Yeah.
and and it also goes very deep into the things that I stand for. I truly believe that the diet that helps us thrive is the same diet. I don't want to call it diet too, but the nutrition that helps us thrive as humans is also the same foods that will help our earth thrive. So meaning the
Yes.
foods the foods that we eat because microbes are not just in our body, they are also alive and well in the soil. However,
Mhm.
there's a lot of issues with our soil as well, so that
Mhm.
has a negative effect on our health. And
Mhm.
understanding how it's all connected, the diet that will help us feel the best will also help Mother Earth thrive and feel the best.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
I
and vice versa, right? Like
yes.
that's what I always say. I'm like, if we support the earth that nourishes us, then
Mhm.
we're going to feel better, right? Like we have a symbiotic relationship with the
Yes.
earth, And so yeah, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I want to I'm not against antibiotics. They are life-saving. They're important
Mhm.
as for us as a community to move forward from, diseases that kill us and has helped us make great strides. But I want to bring more awareness of the health of microbial diversity in us, in the soil, everywhere, in pets, in babies, in breast milk,
Yes, all the
and
things.
yes, how
Yes.
to reconsider the long-term effects of antibiotics.
Yeah, definitely. I
Mhm.
love that. Like talking all about the microbiome and
Yes.
microbial diversity. Like I love that. That would be such a fun commercial. But all right. Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much, Dr. Tang. So
Thank
before
you,
I let
Dr.
you
Patel.
go, yeah, of course. Before I let you go though, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram or TikTok. So my
Instagram or
social
TikTok?
Dr.
Yes.
Tang.
Yes, or Mahan Health. You can
Yes.
also find her there, and
Mhm.
she is one of our main doctors. And so you can also go to the page, learn more about her there, and yeah, and just schedule a complimentary consult. And I think
Sounds
that's
good.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, she's
Looking
also
forward
in the
to
membership. She's in everything. She's like she's amazing.
yeah, excited to meet you and work with you.
Yes, awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I am wishing you all Mahan health, and I will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.